So what happens typically, as we've seen this and we've studied this in a number of other communities, there is this virtuous cycle that if we can get some more capacity in the marketplace, some more competitive, some more competition going on, we're going to see reduced airfare, and that's going to drive people thinking about flying as opposed to driving, or maybe not driving to another airport and staying here and not having to hassle with driving over to Chicago or Detroit. And so we've seen that virtuous cycle. This shows, and this is a little bit old information, airfares, domestic average airfare. If you look in the middle there, it shows a decline of 9%. That was as of quarter 1. Since all airfares have lifted, that reduction, absolute reduction, has gone away, but the relative reduction to other fares around the country has remained. So we've repriced, essentially, the West Michigan aviation market as a consequence of what's going on. So you can see what's happened. Well, this is the prior slide, and then what was, and then what we've been able to add back. So we went through the early reductions, and then the add backs. So all of the markets added back flights and capacity since 2009, but the vast majority of it, as you can see, was added back at Gerald Ford. And that's, again, the low-cost carriers, the AirTrans and the Frontiers and the Allegiants showing up and expanding their capabilities. This talks about historic average fares and ranking. The Grand Rapids, Gerald Ford, and this is just the Gerald Ford pricing, not regional pricing. You can see how much purple there is that going through the middle years. We were a bit more competitive back in 2002, 2003. When our competitive position improved, that was in the old ATA days when the competition came to the marketplace. They went out of the marketplace. You can see the delta between the yellow, which is the U.S. average ticket price, and the average ticket price at Gerald Ford. You can see the delta there became significant. And then if you can track it to 2009, you can see how we were able to narrow that delta, the red line taking us up, in this case, up to being not one of the worst 10 in the country. In fact, we were number 2 highest average ticket price in the country at Gerald Ford when we started in 2009. Of the top 100 airports, we were the 2nd highest in the country. Okay, that's not where you want to be. Okay, that's a list you don't want to head up. You don't want to be on the top. We're seeing some decline in our in that ranking in terms of averages since we had an early spike, as you can see, in 09 and 10. We spiked that up. We've seen some decline in that. But as long as we stay out of that top 10, we think we're in reasonably good shape. We'd like to see us well out of that, and we're hoping that Southwest and continued work will take us away. But the most important is the delta between the yellow and the purple that has improved. This is just a visual, quarterly emplanements. Talks about how things have shifted from 2000. You can see these are all the airports represented. The Gerald Ford Airport in purple at the bottom. If you look back at 2000, you kind of see it's about 50-50. The 3 other airports were about half, and Gerald Ford was about half. If you take that all the way across, now you see it's about 70-30 or 75-25 thereabouts, where Gerald Ford is taking the majority of the capacity, and the other airports that have shrunk down. It is what it is. I'm not commenting to it. I'm just reporting the facts as they are. However, we have seen that since 2009 that everybody has experienced some uptick. So those who would like to say it's a zero-sum game, that somehow because Grand Rapids and Gerald Ford got better priced, that somehow it came out of them. And as we know, Economics 101, except for a few in Washington who don't buy into the fact that actually a growing pie is a good thing, and that because someone does well doesn't mean they took it from somebody else. Yeah, I think a few in Washington could use a little lesson in that, just a personal observation. Well, this proves again it's not a zero-sum game. Gerald Ford has done well, but not at the expense of others, because we've been able to attract more traffic by being more competitive, hopefully offering more attractive services. We've done that despite all of the stuff that's happened over the last 3 years, which is quite interesting.